Hey everybody, it's Garth Garcia and I'm inviting you on July 31st for Hits Reimagined, the EP launch concert. For tickets, you may purchase it at Eventbrite. You may also purchase it through Mick Diaz Presents, Starling Promotions, or Garth Garcia Music. All the details will be there, and I'll see you soon.
Hi, everybody. It's Thursday. It's another week. And yes, Mick Diaz's presents is back with Who Are We? And tonight, we have some very special people from all over Cali. Oh, my goodness. So we have guests from San Diego and from San Jose. And I'm from LA, of course. Um, and so to anyone who's watching the Olympics, hashtag Olympics, and let's show our Pinoy pride for all of those athletes who won gold and placed in the Olympics in Tokyo. And so tonight we have some authors, and all of them have written their own books, and they're all from different disciplines, and they wrote about like different topics. And we will get to know them and how they ended up writing whatever they wrote. And so let's get the show started. So hashtag live if you're watching live, and hashtag replay if you're watching replay, and hashtag who are we? And if you have any suggestions on who you want to see in our show, or what kinds of people you want us to interview, let us know. Send me a message. And just to remind everybody, we are on Facebook, YouTube, Kumu, and Twitch. And we also have we also have Apple, Spotify, and Google podcasts. So we're on there too. So our first guest is Shireen Rivera. She is from San Jose, and she is the founder of Rising Above Publishing Services, and she is an accomplished ghostwriter, best-selling author, and transformational speaker. She believes that sharing is an integral part of healing, and a wound cannot heal without air, and that the world can be healed by each of us collectively taking action to heal ourselves. And we will find out what that means in a little bit. Hi, Shireen. How are you doing? I think you are muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
How are you? I'm doing great.
That is so awesome. So I was just wondering, like, it's really hot here in LA. How's everything over there in San
I think
Jose.
that us Californians are spoiled with the weather. It's warm over here, but I'm grateful to live in California and have this wonderful weather that we have.
Yes, I agree. And here in LA, it's a little bit hot, but outside, oh my gosh, there's a breeze and it feels really good.
I wanted
And
to thank you for having me on your show today. I'm really honored. I've heard great things about you, and I'm really excited to be here.
oh, thank you so much. And welcome to Diaz Presents. Um, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a ghostwriter, like you mentioned. In the last 2 years, I've written 17 books. And how it all started really is in 2016, I left my marriage of 10 years with my two babies. It was an abusive marriage. And I was just really on this journey trying to heal, wanting to give my children different, not knowing how. And I put together my poetry that I wrote throughout my marriage, telling my story. And my intention was not to make money, not to change careers. It was just to share my story, hoping that it would resonate with other women that could relate. And I would spend all day searching for pictures to display my poems on Instagram. And I started gaining a following. And it was by doing that that I gained my first ghostwriting contract. And I didn't even know what ghostwriting was. I remember on the way to the meeting, I was legit on YouTube Googling ghostwriting. But, it was an opportunity for something different. And, I truly believe that when you take a step of faith on yourself, the universe meets you where you're at and opportunities come to you. And you might not know the answer and you might not know how to do it. But if you have the yearning for something new in your life, you'll find a way. And so that's what I did. And it completely changed my life because I consider myself an empath. And I always used to feel like it was a real weakness being able to feel everyone's emotions and being so sensitive to energy. But I'm able to use this gift and harness that to share other people's stories and convey their messages with my gift of writing. So it's been quite a journey for me, and I've been able to help so many people share their stories. My company, I've published 57 books so far, and I just believe that there's so much healing and sharing.
That is so awesome. And especially, oh, I can hear myself. Especially during this time of the pandemic, healing and being able to be empathic towards other people is really helpful, right? And because as what you said, healing takes place in many forms, and healing ourselves first will help heal other people.
Yeah, I think that, so many of us, most of us, I'm going to say, we tend to, just kind of brush everything under the little rug in our mind, especially experiences from our childhood. And as we get older, those things start coming up and they affect us in our relationships. They affect us as parents. They affect us in our friendships. And if we don't address it, that energy from our past, from unhealed trauma, it just manifests in our body. It manifests into mental illness. And that's how generational cycles are perpetuated with our children. And abuse, right? It's passed down to our children until we address it, until we stop it. And it takes one person in the family to heal themselves, to start healing a family together. And so, if you have that yearning in your heart that the situation that you're living in or something in your life isn't right, just address it, because it's your soul telling you that it wants more and that you are worthy of more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's something that we will talk about later. Like, how did you get into ghostwriting, and how did your ghostwriting help other people in their own healing? Because one of our guests also um, went through a very traumatic experience. But we will talk about that in a little bit. And let me call on our next guest. His name is Orlando JAVIEN Jr. And Orlando is a man of many hats, and he is a bookkeeper and tax. I was going to say tax collector, but he was a tax preparer. And yeah, he is an author, motivational speaker, religious education teacher, and content creator by night. And that alone, oh my gosh, like he is wearing a lot of hats. So let's all welcome Orlando, hashtag Orlando. I see his posts every now and then. He is very active in social media. So let's all welcome him. Hashtag Orlando, everybody. Hi, Orlando. How are you doing?
Hello, Mick. Thank you for having me today. So honored.
Yes, you are so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And like I mentioned, I always see your posts, and I do know what the content of your books are. And I believe I just saw a post recently. I think it was last night. And you're promoting your books, right?
Yes.
But how did you get started with writing books? I mean, what made you choose writing books as the medium of your choice?
Well, I began my faith journey in 2007 after having some struggles in marriage and in life. And after going to a men's group and getting on fire in my faith, I started praying more, reading my Bible more, and I started getting inspired to share stories of where I found God in my life, whether it was picking up trash, putting away shopping carts, or picking up underwear. And that's the title of my first book, God Moments, Why God Made Me Pick Up Underwear and Other Stories of Faith. So that's what I started off just writing letters via email. I would just blast all my friends and family, hey, these are the things that are going on in my life. I would love for this to help you and maybe get some support. That eventually went to like constant contacts. I would put it on a newsletter, and I would create one and another and another. Eventually I get to the point where I had so many stories that I thought, hey, maybe this could be a book. And then it was just a matter of putting all the pieces together, saying, okay, here's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And that was kind of the formulation of the second book as well, Unplugged, learning how to disconnect and find peace in a noisy world. It's me finding and recognizing the noises in my life and then sharing. I'm hoping that it would allow other people to recognize their noise and learn how to turn it down a little bit so they can have peace in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that's something that a lot of us find difficulty in doing. How do we turn off all the noise around us, right? Especially with social media, we're always on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook, right? Yeah, you see my posts every day.
Mhm.
And how do we turn off that noise? Like, how do we, feel the balance, right? How do we feel sufficient without all these extra things that we didn't have, 20, 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something, that we're going to tackle in a little bit. But speaking of noise, our next guest is someone who's had her own share of noise, and she turned it into something positive. And she has actually written her own book as well with the help of Shireen. And so let's all welcome Anarita Compio Reyes. She is the author of the autobiography Woman of Hope. She's been on our show before with the rest of the soul, with the South Bay ladies who are watching right now. So hello, ladies of the South Bay. How's everything in San Jose? And back to Anarita, she tackles her life struggles and triumphs from her home country and as an immigrant to the USA. And she's a mother of two loving sons, Joseph, who is diagnosed with autism, and Jericho. And she has been an educator since 2003. And her life revolves around academic work, volunteerism, and philanthropic work, especially in providing aid to the homeless in San Jose and sending support to her community in the Philippines. And so let's all welcome Anarita. Hashtag Anarita, everybody. Show your love, San Jose people.
Welcome, Anna.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
So thank you so much, May, for giving me the opportunity being in this interview. And I know I've been thankful, especially I have one of the person that I would like to recognize, acknowledge, and she's one of my inspiration why I'm doing this book, and Sharon Rivera. Yes. And I can tell you the reason why about that later.
I love you, Anna. Thank you so much.
Yes, and so give us a little background about yourself, Anarita. Like, how did you end up writing a book, or what made you want to write a book?
Honestly, the first thing, Shireen have her own birthday, and she have her workshop is in November 16, 2019. The title is Success is the Revenge, right? So in her workshop, that's her birthday, I think, celebration. So they talk about healing, forgiveness, a lot of things that they talk about dream and how about to become a financially stable, so many topics. So one thing impressed me about Shireen is she wrote the book, and most of them there are the author of the book because of the help of Shireen. So last year, I following her honestly. I following her because she's part of Powerhouse Academy. So I following her, and last year is about I think August September. I sent a message to Shireen, and I told her I have a story that I would like to share with you that I never shared to anyone. So she told me like, you want to have a book? And I said, honestly, I need help because English is my second language. And I told her my story. I sent in some, like a note, like a letter in her messenger. And then she told me, okay, let's work with out. And then from there, we start working the outline. And from working the outline, she give me like, okay, start working on by chapter. And that is how I started writing the book. And it took like me 2 weeks to try to finish whatever the outline I'm working on and going back and forth for editing. So for me, having the book next to me is A Woman of Hope. Actually, we have different titles at the beginning, finding something, a lot of title we come up, and later on we think because I'm a woman, I'm an immigrant, and I used to be a homeless. So I thinking I first I said Warrior of Hope, and Sharon advised me I think better Woman of Hope, finding up my purpose and immigrant. So that I end up the title of the book because before the title we already have the outline. I start writing the book and we come up into the chapter. So the reason why I motivated and inspired to do it because what I said earlier, I used to be on homeless. When I start living here, I got motivated to go back to school. I got inspired with different women of color, and I went back to school. And from there, I got inspired. Like I get my degree, I get better myself. I want to go back to my community. I want to share my story. I want to get advocate for the people, especially for me that I came from the third world country. Especially for me, I'm Asian. You know, a lot of things going on. But when I went to sharing, success is the best revenge workshop that time that stuck in my mind because we're the same November. And I told her this is the gift I'm going to give to myself to open up myself. Because when the time I was that in workshop with them, I saw how they open up themselves. And that at the beginning, honestly, when I talked to Sherry in August last year, I was so scared. And first thing she asked me, like, are you ready to open yourself? Is that okay for your people know about your life story? And I told her, yes, I need to do it. So I think that is another thing, like, despite of pandemic that the COVID-19 happening in our society, in entire nation or around the universe, but it's a one way that give you inspiration, that somebody believe on you. Your story can bring happiness, can give hope, and can show you what is your purpose and what is your passion in life. And when I start writing the book, it opened up myself. So right now, I'm not only author of the book, at the same time, a lot of people calling me, messaging me, and giving me opportunity to talk, to share my story. Because a lot of people get inspired. A lot of women are struggling right now that they're almost giving up. But they saw how the struggle I went through. They give them inspiration to go on and continue their journey in life.
That is so awesome. I'm sure a lot of people are inspired by you. I see a lot of comments from our South Bay ladies. And by the way, you look good in pink. That's what they're saying. And
Can I just add in there that of all the people that I've helped write books, Anna, English is her second language. She wrote this book the fastest out of anybody I have ever had as a client. It was absolutely amazing. She wrote her book in 2 weeks
Oh wow!
after
Oh my
doing an
gosh!
outline with me. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I just want to give her credit for that. I've never seen that in my life.
Oh
Thank you,
my
Sherry.
goodness!
Yeah. Yeah, because
That
I
is
remember
so
in the
awesome.
holiday, I told her, I take this holiday Christmas time to finish this book. And it's my goal that every single day I need to wake up to finish this one. And then going back and forth. I want to make sure this is correct. I kept sending to Jen, do you think this is okay? I said, don't worry about the grammar, about everything. I'll be here to support you. So I think that inspired me and I become committed to myself. And at the same time, because my commitment is to show what is my purpose in life to bring the advocacy,
Hmm.
especially to the women, and
Yes.
immigrants too.
Yes, and speaking of purpose, our next guest is Annette Estrada, and she is also about paying it forward and helping the community and giving back to the community. She has been a classroom teacher for over 8 years, and she has worked with our youth for over 17 years, and she is a current resident of San Jose with her 3 children. And she wrote her first book, Mini Manifestors, a pocketbook to energize the young leaders of the now. And she is the founder of Mini Manifestors, a social justice movement that teaches young leaders and adults to harness inner love as energy to create solutions for a loving and just community. And she is also piloting her programs. There's a couple of them, the Mini Manifestors Discovery and Flip That Energy. And she also has a podcast called Mini Manifestors Small Talk Big Minds. And so let's all welcome Annette Estrada. Hashtag Annette, everybody. Hi, Annette.
Hi, how are you? Thank
How
you.
are
Welcome,
you
Annette.
doing?
Hi. Thank you for having me, Mick. And you know what? I also want to add that Shireen. I want to give props to Shireen, Mick. I don't know if I didn't say this earlier. She also helped me with writing my book, but I wasn't as fast as Anna, that's for sure. So props to
How
you.
long did it take you? Like 2 weeks?
Gosh, you know what? I was highly distracted, as I'm always distracted. So it took me about, I don't know what, Shireen, like a month or.
I think it took you about a month and a half, but mind you, you're a teacher during COVID. So
Yeah,
it was, I remember she wrote this book when homeschooling had just started in the houses. And I think it was during spring break, right?
yeah, there was,
It was
yeah,
like during the little 2 week period break, and you started doing it then.
yeah,
But that was just like another amazing thing that you were able to like really focus during that time with everything that you had on your plate.
I tried.
Yeah, you did it.
I didn't kill anyone, so we're good.
And so, for Annette, what made you decide to actually write a book? Like, what were your experiences, or what did you want to tell people about your experiences as a teacher?
Yeah, I mean, just overall, I mean, I feel like Orlando, Anna, and Shireen have covered it. When we all have that noise or we've experienced some really tough times in life, it's real easy to forget about other people that are impacted by what's going on in here. And from personal experience, my parents went through a tumultuous divorce, and that heavily impacted me. At the time, I didn't know it was happening. It was like a blur, but a lot of times we forget about how, as adults, our issues impact the kids directly. And that's from my personal experience. But even as a classroom teacher, even if their parents aren't going through a tumultuous situation, even just the busyness, as Orlando and Shireen talked about, the busyness of people's lives, really, sometimes leave the kids out. I mean, as long as they're eating, as long as they have shelter and they have clothes, that's like the old school way of taking care of kids. And with everybody being so much more aware of, it's more than just the basics. We have to start looking at our energy, because whether we've explored it or not, pop culture has slowly brought in this idea of, oh, good vibes, bad vibes. tying it into religion or not, but it is a very present thing that we're starting to bring pop culture into, which is that's a big deal. We're changing the face of the energetic face of humanity.
Mm-hmm. And so going back to the mini manifestors,
Uh-huh.
right? So I'm just really curious, like, what does the book look like? I mean, like like
Well,
let us end the book for a little bit.
well, it's a pocketbook, number one. So, number one, as a parent or as an educator, because I know as a teacher, when my district throws me new curriculum, I do not read page to page. And as a busy parent, sometimes I have to get my books on Audible because reading, it's a different process for me. So,
Mhm.
number one, it's not intimidating. Number two, it's called a pocketbook, and it's also a workbook. So it's really a book that brings you through activities that help you to reflect on what that noise is for you. Um, and really pinning down, what are some ways to bring peace to your immediate environment that our kids, all of our kids, whether they be our students or our own children, are directly impacted by. And it doesn't follow, it follows the basic laws of love and peace, you know but we have tons of different activities in the book that help you think about, how am I loving myself? I haven't been loving myself. I've been so drained and burned out. This is not making me a better adult. Okay, I need to sit down and I need to reflect and I need to bring back the peace and fill up my love bucket. And in the end, that's what it basically is all about. It's filling your love bucket so you are more open to manifesting the life that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we do have a question from one of our um, audience. Miko has a question. So he wants to know, how do you deal with writer's block? And so this is a question for everybody, because everyone has written books. How do you deal with writer's block? How do you keep the creative juices flowing? Let's start with you, since you're already there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you know what? I know the best suggestion, and from personal experience, is write as much as you can, but take a break. Take a little brain break, go do whatever you need to do, and then come back to it after you feel fresh. And then, I mean, I personally beat myself up sometimes, so maybe I might beat myself up, and then that's not loving. So I gotta love myself again, and then go back to it.
So, Shireen, you've written a lot of books, and you've written for a lot of other people, right? So,
Mhm.
how do you get the creative juices flowing? Since you're writing, like you're ghost writing for a lot of people, you have timelines and deadlines, right?
Yes. So I have several different things that I can advise him to do. So, number one, I always try to focus on the why, right? Why am I, for instance, if he's writing his own book, why do you want to write this book? Is it because you really want someone else to hear your story and be inspired? Are you really wanting to use your story to enter the speaking arena? Why are you writing this book? Like, write that why down and put it on your desk or wherever you do your writing at. The second piece of advice I have would be to block out time, the same time every single day, and dedicate that time, even if it's like 15 to 20 minutes. It doesn't even have to be a full hour. Dedicate that time to just purging all your ideas out. And when you're writing during that time, don't edit and write, just write. Do the editing afterwards. Another good way for people that kind of get blocked typing is you can use the voice recorder on your phone and just talk into it. And you can use the recording of that and get that transcribed and then, edit it into your book that way as well. And then the other thing is I've come to recognize this more in my craft as I'm dealing with people who have super powerful stories, who I know their stories like my clients, as you can see, make great impact, is when you are given an idea, right, to write a book or an idea for a book, and you know it's going to help people, there is an energy, you can call it the devil, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but there's an energy that comes to distract you away from that. So every time you go to sit down to write your story, there's this blockage or there's a distraction that comes up or your phone is ringing, because there's just an energy that tries to keep us from doing good in this world. And you have to be aware of that. So that's why I tell my clients to be have the intention to write. When you have an intention to do something, nothing can distract you. You turn your phone on D&D for 15 minutes, you light a candle, and you're really dedicating that time to channel the message that has been given to you in your heart to put on paper.
So going to Orlando, we know you're one very busy person. You have a job during the day and you also have a family. So were there any distractions? I'm sure there were, and how were you able to deal with them?
For me, what helps me get past any like writer's block is I absorb a lot of content. I listen to over 10 hours of Bible sermons, motivational business talks, anything that can give me ideas. So since I'm constantly absorbing information, I'm taking that in, and then I find different ways to apply them to my life. And then I'm very observant too. Everywhere I go, whether I'm walking my dogs or I'm talking to my family, there's my dogs.
There you go. They're saying hi.
Yeah, exactly. If I see something, even if I'm walking the dog and I see, that's one of my neighbors left dog poop on the ground, I can find a story from, that battle between getting mad at the person for not picking up their own poop or me saying, hey, why don't you do it? So I always have these little dialogues, whether it's picking up trash on the ground, cleaning up a bathroom, a public bathroom. There's always these dialogues in my head because I'm absorbing so much information. So that's what helps me get past writer's block.
Mm-hmm. And so you're always thinking, in other words, right?
My mind,
There's always something.
It's always racing.
Right.
We'll have conversations with my family, and all of a sudden I'll blurt something out, and everyone will look at me like, where do you come up with that? I'm like, it's because I'm constantly absorbing that. Eventually, when the time arises, hey, I can share this.
Mm-hmm. That is so cool. And so going back to Anarita, so in your experiences, you're probably the fastest writer in this group. It took you 2 weeks only to write a whole manuscript, if you will. And so I'm just like really like amazed at how you did that. How are you able to do that? Like, like granted, you had a lot of distractions, you have family, you have work. What kind of hours were you putting in every day?
Actually, I have a diary. I have a journal book. So since I have a diary and a journal book, so I go back there. So I look at what I wrote 10 or 15 years ago or 17 years ago. So I look at there, and then because on that diary, I wrote how's my life when I was a child and how my life as a mother, how my life as wife, something like that. So I have the different chapter already in my own before. And when I start working on and I have the outline that me and Sharon talking about, and everything flash back. Every time I write something, I say, oh, I saw it in my diary. So I need to go back there. I need to add the information. That another thing. And especially, not only I'm writing, I'm also an artist. So I do art painting. So in my art painting, I look at my art painting when I start writing, and I said, oh, this one is close to the riverbank, and I live in the riverbank. All that one it become connected. I think we can faster to do it because I have some already that I written before, and I already have some artifacts or something material that I can able to use it. The only thing that a little struggle for me, a little bit block for me at the beginning because my God, maybe I writing wrong. I doing it with the grammar. So I like Sharon told me, don't worry about all the things. Focus. Don't worry about all the editing. When you finish everything, so there's a time for you to forward to me and we will look about that. So I know sometimes we have this structure, but that 2 week, I take a vacation off because I
Oh
want to
wow.
finish it. Yeah, because that's Christmas time. So Christmas time and New Year. So I know I cooking because I'm part of the philanthropic community. So I created a group with my friend of philanthropy. But I spending my early morning. I woke up early morning to finish all the stuff by chapter. And then after by chapter, I have to go back to other things. I want to make sure I'm doing right, or I want to make sure that whatever in my diary, whatever I learned, go back to my photo album, go back to my painting. I try to put them together. So I think those helping me a lot, and especially connected about myself. So it's talking about myself, and the same time, I'm talking to myself also. So when I write
Mhm.
it, I say, oh, so everything I write something, they look at me, man, what are you doing? You're talking to yourself because I have something to absorb. I need to say it before I write it. Because I'm that kind of person. I sometimes talking in the mirror, talking to myself, or sometimes I'm in the car. I try to talk, oh, this is what happened. This is what I do. It's easy for me to remember when I say it. Yeah, and then I write it.
Yes, that is so
Yeah.
true. And
Mhm.
like what you said earlier, ideas don't just come from anywhere, right? It just doesn't come out of your head without anything. You're inspired by your environment. You're inspired by things around you, like your paintings or whatever you've done in the past. You remember them, and you want something new to come out of that. And so you're inspired out of something that you see out there, right? And so, speaking of inspiration, were there any people who inspired you to write or put your thoughts on paper? So let's start with Shireen.
Yes. I think
I
I'm mute.
think you're
Sorry, I
okay.
was on mute.
Okay.
Growing up, I was always a writer, and I used to journal like Anna, and I journaled throughout my marriage, my 10 years of marriage, and I have always written, but I stopped sharing my poetry when I was in my early 20s. But my grandma, she always used to encourage me, and whenever I would share something with her, she would always tell me that I need to write my own book. And so when I told her that I was putting my poetry together finally to share my story, she was my biggest fan and my biggest supporter, and she encouraged me so much. And so I'll never forget that. And that's why I know that feeling, to kind of question ourselves if we're able to do that, if we're worthy of it. Does anyone want to hear our story? I know that feeling. But I also know firsthand that most of us, all of us, we're all desensitized to the things that we've been through. And
Mhm.
in fact, there's somebody out there that has to hear exactly what you have to say. There's somebody out there that's going through exactly what you have gone through, and that can use your story as, their handbook to get through it and to love themselves still and to believe in themselves.
That is so true. And um, so for Orlando, Anna, and Annette, was there anybody who inspired you, and who did you look up to while growing up?
Yeah, I think for me, I always remember my mother. My mother already passed away 2017. And she always believing what I say. So every time she always telling me, "Oh, you're gonna be like this. You're gonna be like this." So that always stuck in my mind that, oh, I need to be an educator. Something like what I said. Like if someone believing on you, you made that person inspiration. And of course, I always think that Shireen is one of my inspiration because that's up in my mind when I met her in her workshop. And always talking to her about the success is the revenge workshop in November 16, 2019. So I don't forget that day because on that day I told myself I want to have a book because my mom told me before that, oh, you know why you're here in the US? I know you went through a lot of struggle in that way. You didn't share that, but I don't know how I do it. But when I meet Sharon, I following her, like I said earlier, and I said that one day I need to contact her. And that is the time of the pandemic, I reached out to her. So she inspired me and she believing on me. Otherwise, they give me open opportunity, and especially I've been thankful. Like after I wrote the book, after I opened this one, he come and support me and my Powerhouse Academy. And she don't inspire me to join the other group of Powerhouse Academy. All the women inspiring each other, working together and support one another. Yeah.
That is so awesome. And we're always here to support each other, right? And so, Annette, was there anyone who inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say initially it would be my own children, in addition to my students, just because I was able to see their potential. But with regard to the actual book, it really did start just the same group that Anna and Shireen are a part of, which is the Powerhouse Women, and then that's how I came in contact with Shireen. You know, she totally understood the journey to healing, whether it be with abuse, or just tumultuous family affairs. Actually, another good girlfriend before the Powerhouse inspired me. Like, she told me to get your journal, and you know, you should start writing. And yeah, so it was kind of like all along the way where, you know, people suggested, like, you need to put this down on paper.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm.
That is so cool. And going back to Orlando, we want to find out more about you. So what made you, who inspired you, and who do you look up to?
I would say I could count three names of who inspired me to write and to write a book. My mom first, because I grew up watching my mom. She was always reading her Bible. She was always writing letters to people. She would write to my friends, my siblings' friends, always writing them scriptures and inspiring words. My phone is, sorry.
There goes the noise that we were all talking about,
Exactly.
right?
So I used to see my mom writing all the time and sharing the message of hope to friends and family. And then my coach, my wrestling coach, he was a very big motivation in my life. He not only taught us how to wrestle, he taught us how to be um, strong men and how to be men of faith. And he would always instill it. Although you couldn't really say it in school, he would always find a way to instill in us the importance of faith. And at one point in time, he wrote a book. And when I went to a wrestling function, there was another gentleman there named Ryan Tate, and he said, "When are you going to write a book?" He said that to me. And I says, I don't know. I don't know what to write. He goes, "Well, everyone's got a story." So it was a culmination of watching my mom and everything she was doing, my coach who was instilling faith into his wrestlers and his friends and family, and that message from Ryan who said, everyone has a story.
Yes, and speaking of stories, were there any books, like when you were growing up, were there any books that were memorable or that really stuck with you?
You know, it's funny because I was a very horrible reader. I tell all my kids, you know, I didn't really read the books I was supposed to in high school. I didn't read a lot. So for me to have a big library, I have a big library behind me. I didn't start reading until I started my faith journey, and all of a sudden I became so inspired to read and gain more and more knowledge. So, I mean, if there was any books I remember, it would be Encyclopedia Brown, a little detective book. But outside of that, maybe joke books. Actually, I love joke books. So those ones I can read cover to cover. And I think that's really helped me because I do some public speaking. So I've learned how to become a storyteller because of all the jokes I've read.
That is so awesome. So that's something that we will get into a little bit later on, like the public speaking part of it. Because I know all of you are public speakers, right? All of you have spoken in front of huge crowds. And that's, you know, another layer into all this, like being an author and being a public speaker at the same time. And so going to Shireen, what were your favorite books? You said you were always a writer. You've always been a writer.
Yes. I used to devour books growing up because it was like a really powerful way for me to escape, the environment that I was in. So I loved reading. And a few of my favorite books was always Charlotte's Web when I was young, and then The Princess Diaries, and then when I was in high school, I became a romance junkie, and I would like I legit would finish a Danielle Steele book in probably like 3 days, 2 days. And I read so many of her books. I remember when I moved out of my grandparents, I counted how many Danielle Steele books I had, and I probably had like 85 books. It was just crazy. I would be in high school in like history with my Danielle Steele novel over the textbook, like reading it in class. But now, right now, I love reading, and I do make it a priority in my life because it's very important to me. I think through reading other, just knowledge is power, so it doesn't matter if you get it through audio or if you get it through YouTube videos or you get it through reading. Knowledge is power. So reading is my way of gaining knowledge, and I love to read books about self-development, and also about just tapping into our inner power and healing. Those are the main books that I like to read. And one of my favorite books, it's like the shortest book I ever read. It was 27 pages, but it's As a Man Thinketh. And if you haven't read that book, I really highly recommend it to everyone.
That is so cool. And so with Annette, what were your favorite books?
Yeah. Well, as a child, I really couldn't get off of. I really couldn't leave alone. Roald Dahl's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Number one, it was super entertaining. The Oompa Loompas. I mean, come on. Oompa Loompas were these little short helpers of the of Willy Wonka, and he had really cool poems. But the story overall really focused on people's character, and what type of characters shine the most and are basically those that are pure of heart. And even when I was older, Roald Dahl's book just always took it. But and then in high school, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking out. It's the one with Pony Boy, Johnny, not the Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys, right?
Outsiders.
Wait, the what?
Outsiders.
Yeah, the Outsiders. I was thinking
Outsiders.
about the vampires in Santa Cruz. My bad. No, we're a gang too. But yeah, that book was really inspiring. I really love this idea between the different social classes, and the real things that no matter what color you are, the real things that people go through, when there's a difference in class. But yeah, currently I read books, I listen to books, and it's all about the personal development. And I dig into the Bible here and there. My favorite version is King James. I don't know why. It just is my jam. And then
King James is your jam.
Yeah, King James. King James. I loveth the brethren and how thou speaketh. That's a joke. But no, I love King James. Hashtag King James.
That is so cool.
We're so cute, Annette.
Thank you.
Hashtag King James, everybody.
Y'all.
And so, Anarita, what's your favorite book? Were there any favorite books when you were growing up?
Actually, honestly, I came from the Philippines. So during our time, mostly of the people in our villages reading pocketbooks. All kind of comic, the horror, comedy, or whatever, or love story. So sometimes we borrow from each other, So, but for me, my mom told me, like, even I remember myself, that during my high school, most of my friends are buying different new clothes, sandals, or whatever. But me, I end up, but my money, a little allowance I have, I bought always a book. But mostly of the book I buy is more motivational, inspirational. And of course, everybody said one of my favorites is also the Bible. Because when I was grade 4, fourth grade in the Philippines, that's a gift of my parents, and I still have it now. So every time something, I need to think something, I worry, I always go back to the Bible. So that's another thing. But when now growing up and being here in the US, most of the time reading children's books
Mm-hmm.
because I work in preschool program and the school age program. So most likely all kind of book I'm reading, everything is connected with the children and are connected to self development, how to be healthy, how to share kindness, all that kind of books that I'm reading. So every time I go to the store, I always looking for a book. And I think that's another thing because that inspired me because honestly, when I was a child, I always thinking one day I'll probably have my book. But I didn't really expect that would be happen. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
just thankful that reading the book, that what Sharon said, knowledge is a power. To give me opportunity to understand more, not only my book, to understand more story. And even sometimes I went to Annette one of her workshops too, the manifesto, to learn and understand how important the impact of supporting children activities, especially the parents. So that's why I
Mm-hmm.
love reading children's book, any book that connected to children. Yeah.
And so I see an underlying theme about helping other people, motivating other people right through your work, through your written books. And so, can you tell me what was the transition like to public speaking? Because I know all of you have spoken in front of not like probably millions of crowds, but yeah, to large groups of people. So what was that like?
I think for me, I growing up, I used to speak in the public. So since my parent is very active in the Catholic Church, and I'm a catechist myself too, and my dad is a political leader. She's a politician, so she's a leader in our place. So coming with my dad seeing it talking in the public, so I gained the confidence from him. Like she always telling me that don't care what you said. The most important, you speak it from your heart, and you have sincerity and commitment to help others. So I think that give me an edge that doesn't matter. I don't care what people think, what I'm saying. What I care, I say something good and support other people. I think that give me confidence to talk
Mhm.
in the public. Yeah.
And Orlando, you look like you had something to say.
Oh, no, I was just waiting. Well, till you call on me.
Yeah. So what was that transition like? I know you're also a motivational speaker. Did you have any difficulties like speaking in front of a large crowd as compared to writing you're on your own and you're writing like mostly for yourself with other people in mind, but there's a big difference when you're out there and you're in the public eye, right?
My babysitter used to say to me, "How could such a little boy have such a big mouth?" So I can talk a lot. If if we were face to face and we were talking, I've learned how to shut up because my daughter said, "Dad, you need to stop talking." But I can go on and on. So for me, talking and sharing my stories is very comfortable for me. But what I had to do is I needed to learn how to craft it. So I took a lot of classes. I took Toastmasters. I speak at a networking group once a week. So I learned that the best way to be better at speaking is to first off do it, learn from your mistakes, record it, listen to yourself, learn from others. I shared with you that I listen to 10 hours of motivation every day. So because I listen to other people speak, I kind of learn, okay, well, I want to kind of mimic this person, not be that person, but mimic the way he presents. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, speaking comes naturally because I can talk, but then it's learning how to craft it so that you can fit within a time period because sometimes they give you 15 minutes, sometimes they give you an hour. So learning how to then condense it so you can get your message across.
Mm-hmm. That is something that all of us need to learn, right? And so, with Shireen, you've also done your share of public speaking, right? And you also have your own show. Um, and so, were there any challenges, or how did you go
Yeah,
into speaking? Like
I
coming from a
hated
writer's
public
point of view.
speaking. I hated it. I remember I used to listen to Les Brown, and he, was talking about sharing your story, and you need to, speak your truth and go in front of crowds after you write your book. And I remember thinking, oh, heck no, there's no way. I almost failed speaking class in college. I hated it. I used to sweat. I turned red. I would shake. I forgot what I was talking about. But then when I joined Powerhouse, I remember, my coach, one of the things that she teaches us is about speaking. And so she gave us a lot of different things that we could watch and how to practice and how to really, craft our message. And she helped me get my first speaking gig. And I spoke in front of the first time 150 students at a high school. And it was really nerve-wracking for me, but at the same time, it was so gratifying to have students clapping while I'm talking and coming up to me afterwards who really resonated with the things that I was sharing and asking for my advice, and just to have that reaction from people really validated that it's something that I needed to be doing. But I think the most proud moment I have with my speaking was, again, my coach, Chandra Brooks. She told me the day before the Women's March in 2019 that she needed me to come on stage and perform one of my poems. And I had one day to remember this poem. One day. And I remember I spent the whole day practicing. I was like, oh my God. And I went, and there was I think 3 to 5,000 people there in the crowd. And it was really intimidating. I forgot a verse when I was waiting to go on stage. I was like, oh my God. But I did it. And it was so it's one of my proud moments in my career.
I'm sure it was very liberating, right?
Yeah, it just really proving to myself that I can do something under pressure, regardless if I'm scared, regardless if I have fear, just doing it anyways. And again, here we go with the distraction, right? Because my babysitter canceled that day, so I had to bring the kids with me. There was traffic on the freeway. The parking lot was full. Everything that could go wrong on the way to the event went wrong. I remember I was running down the street with both of my kids. I dropped my phone and cracked it. I was like, what's happening? But I got there 10 minutes before I was supposed to go on, and I was like, I just have to do it. And that's one of the biggest things I think is that we tend to overthink and we get caught up in our head about stuff. And sometimes the best solution is just to take action and don't think too much about it.
Mm-hmm. That is some great advice. And I know Annette deals with public speaking on a daily basis, right? Being a teacher, you're always in front of everybody. And how does that help you, with writing? That. Let's turn it back around. How does that help you with writing and coming up with the mini manifestors?
Yeah, I feel if anything for me personally, the public speaking definitely helps with being okay with being you, speaking your truth, and not everyone may be interested in your material, but you always find allies along the way, and being okay with that, whether it's in the public or through your book. And that's the biggest lesson, is just being me. I mean, it's the only me I got. So and being okay with sharing that, because it's a vulnerable journey.
Yes, it is. You're sharing yourself, right? And so, speaking of legacy, what's the lasting legacy that you want to leave behind, aside from your books? Because your books will stay on, forever, or your Audible books, your audio books, or your written physical hard copy books will stay on, right? And so, what's your lasting legacy? What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
Yeah. For me, it's whether it's through religion or for people who are more spiritual. My desire is to leave a legacy of what, we're all here to become better people. Um, Hopefully in the lens of love and peace and light, and whatever material inspires people to become more loving and peaceful and to become better versions of themselves. I mean, that's the best right there. I mean, shucks.
Yes, that is so true. And Orlando, what's the lasting legacy that you want to leave behind?
I
Or
strongly
any
believe.
advice for other people?
I strongly believe that you should write out your eulogy. You should know what you would like people to say about you, and I would want people to say that he made me want to be better. He made me want to be a better man, husband, father, friend, and he made me want to know the Jesus he knew. It just, I want to live my life so that people look at Orlando and says, I want to know what he knows. I want to know where he gets his joy, where he gets his passion. And that way, ultimately, if it could lead him to Christ, that's my ultimate goal.
That is so awesome. And speaking of like leading other people, um, let's go to Shireen. So, what's the lasting legacy do you want to leave behind, or do you have any advice for anybody who wants to get into writing?
Um, I try not to really concern myself, to be honest, with what my legacy is, because I can't control how other people think about me or feel about me, right? I can just control how I conduct myself while I'm alive. And my intention every single day is to show people that the circumstances that you were born in does not dictate where you are going, and that anything is possible if you believe in yourself. And I try to show that every single day by living that. And the answer really is self-love. That really is the answer, is learning how to pour into our cups and validate ourselves and not seek it anywhere else but inside of us. And that's how God answers us and guides us. And so I just want to always leave that behind.
That is so true. Like one of the questions is how do we fill our cup, right? How do we and how do we, motivate other people as well? And so Anarita actually has done a lot of motivating and has been inspirational to a lot of people. And what do you want people to think about you, when you're gone?
Actually, that always I said, I continue my journey in life because everybody have different journey, we have different direction, but the only one stuck in my mind are to live my purpose and my passion in life. Because if we know what is our purpose and you know what our why that Sharon mentioned earlier, we always take a rest.
Mhm.
There's always two sides in our life, either negative or positive. But for me, I always choose to be positive despite of all the trial, all the struggle, whatever. I never look at all the trial. I look at what can I do now? How can I be better myself and be the best version of myself? Because being an inspiration, I need to inspire myself first and leading myself because I set a good example to my own children and to the people around me and especially to my family. Otherwise, that is the legacy I want to bring to people. The people remember as a woman of hope and a person that never give up. I will continue this journey with faith and hope and love in myself. And also for the people that I always acknowledge and appreciate them for always supporting me. So I always give honor and acknowledge Shireen because without her support, I don't think so I have this book. I don't think so I have this support without Shanda. I don't think so I have this opportunity without you guys. Everybody is working together, supporting each other. So this is very important that we understand our purpose. Not we not doing our journey alone. We always journey with somebody else that make
Mhm.
our life better and make us stronger and the best version of ourselves.
That is
Yeah.
so true. Yes. We all agree with that. And the first thing is to, love ourselves and inspire ourselves so that we can be an inspiration to other people and spread the love and our message to other people as well. So, is there anything that else that you want to tell our audience before we go?
I think what I share, if you have like always I heard from Sherry before, if you have a story to tell, don't be afraid. Nobody can know your story if you don't open up yourself. Because somewhere along the way, there's somebody who have almost the same story with you, have similar story with you. Speak up and open up. So I don't be afraid, don't be scared, open yourself because in one way or another you can support and help yourself to be better and at the same time the other people to be inspiration too.
Hmm. That is so true. Annette, Shireen, or Orlando?
I just want to thank you for having me today, and anyone who is still watching, thank you. It means a lot, and I hope that you were able to get something out of all of this.
Annette,
Yeah.
Orlando?
Well, I just want to say, whether it's writing or public speaking, Anna Rita spoke about this earlier too, about purpose. As long as you're working in your purpose and you're answering to the calling that constantly is, speaking in your ear.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, do it the best you can, and with time, you know, with
Yes.
time it'll come out, all in good time.
That is so true. Orlando?
This is for anyone who wants to write or maybe even just to enjoy life more is to take the time to enjoy the moments. My book is called God Moments. It's learning how to stop and to just enjoy. Too many times we're running around. We're before we can even finish one thing, we're already thinking about what we need to do later. Take the time, whether it's being with your wife, being with your husband, being with your kids, being with your parents. Just take the moment, the time to enjoy the moment that you're in before it's gone, and try to create as many moments as possible. And if you create and you enjoy the moments, the more you'll have. So.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. And so I want to thank all of our guests. Thank you so much, Anarita, Shireen, Annette, and Orlando for being on our show. And to our viewers for actively commenting and greeting everybody. All of our guests, thank you so much. And to our viewers in the Philippines who are watching from Kumu, thank you so much for coming out every Thursday or Friday to watch our shows. And once again, you can watch our show on replay on Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, so once again, thank you so much to everybody. And we are going to be back tomorrow with a virtual concert as usual on a Friday. And tomorrow we're going to have R&B singer Chris Matt Mateo, who's actually from Delano. Yeah, so that's something to look out for. So that's tomorrow, Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. So good night, everybody. Good night, Anarita, Shireen,
Good night,
Annette,
Shireen.
Orlando.
Hi,
Good
Annette.
night.
And
Thank you,
Thank you
Orlando.
again for
Thank you,
having
good
us.
Nick.
night.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye.
good night to our ladies of the South Bay. So everybody's watching from the South Bay and from San Diego. Good night.
Yes.
Have a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Don't forget.
Yes, thank you. See you, Film Subway. We will be in Morgan Hills, okay? On
Oh
Saturday.
yes, that is so true. You have a pop up in Morgan Hill,
Yeah,
right?
we will be in Morgan Hill in El Toro Elementary School with all the Film Subway community. So I invited you guys to come and join us and support us. This is for our community and it's a benefit project to support the children in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's gonna be a lot of food and non-food vendors in that pop up,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Yes, don't forget tomorrow, Morgan Hill. What time is that going to be?
1 p.m. to 4 p.m. That is Saturday, July 31 in Morgan Hill, El Toro Elementary
okay.
School. Yes.
Okay, yes. And thank you so much. And for those people who are in LA, we do have a concert. That's Garth Garcia's concert on Saturday, July 31st here in LA. And his EP is coming out on the same day, Saturday, July 31st, on Spotify, Apple iTunes, and all of the listening platforms. Yeah, so good night, everybody. Have a great night ahead of you. Thank you so much for watching.
Hey everybody, it's Garth Garcia and I'm inviting you on July 31st for Hits Reimagined, the EP launch concert. For tickets, you may purchase it at Eventbrite. You may also purchase it through Diaz Presents, Starling Promotions, or Garth Garcia Music. All the details will be there, and I'll see you soon.